Keeping with my theme of using a rattle can, I sprayed as much as I could with spray paint. The only true flat black I had on hand was this stuff from a hardware store. And I will do my best to show or name the paint as I go. This is Tamiya TS17 Bright Aluminium. Pratt & Miller prided themselves on how stiff this chassis was. To do that, from my understanding, they replaced the majority of the Corvette chassis with hydroform steel and then tied the roll cage into that. So to simulate that, I'm going to shoot everything in a gunmetal silver type color. It's right about here when I realized that this is more gray than it is gunmetal. I finally figured out why. This is gunship gray and not gunmetal gray. I'd like to blame the people at the store for stocking this wrong, but in all honesty, I was probably in a hurry and grabbed the first thing I saw that had gun in it and just assumed it was gunmetal. So I'm going to break my rattle can rule, primarily because it's 4 a.m. and no stores are open and I want to get this done. This is Meteor Gray for the Porsche 918. Anyone who's seen this, it's a very dark, metallic, rich silver color. It's the only thing I have on hand that is close to gunmetal, so I'm going to have to make it work. So here I go again, repainting everything that's supposed to be metal. The headers, the roll cage, chassis bits, all of it. Looking at the reference photos, the headers are kind of goldish, burnt straw color. So I figured I'd knock that out just while I got the airbrush in my hand. This is just Tester's gold thinned way down to do a very translucent coat. Back to the rattle cans though, and on to the interior. I should also note my method as to why this video ended up so long. I'm going to show me painting everything, then as those parts are dry and workable, that's when I start the assembly. So the lot of this may not be in any order that makes sense. It's just that part was dry, so it's what I work with next. Now I could splice all this together and make it orderly and make sense. However, if I do that, you'll end up seeing parts in the background that are finished, some that are unfinished, and it will just look weird. So bear with me here on how I tied all this together. Alright, so where are we in the video? Oh, that's right, simulating rubber. I'd like to share a secret with you, but I don't have any. That hardware store flat black simulates rubber very well. I've always wanted to try this, so I figured I would. I got real bored. Figured I'd just dip this in there as deep as I want it, and that's how I'll paint the shifter. It ended up taking like 4 coats. I'd recommend just brushing it. It's quicker. Also, if you notice how chrome that was, this simulates chrome very well. I might start using it for some things in place of that Molotov. Look at this. Are you watching? I was prepared. The center of this dashboard needs to be silver or aluminium or any shade of shiny gray. Since I am using spray paint, I am going to mask off literally everything because I am not going to take a chance with overspray. I think it's about time to rebuild some of these clampy sticks I use because they're getting kind of worn out. Oh no, an accident. How could this be? This little clip right here really sums up why spray paint is so great at times. I only needed just enough to cover that, and I covered it in 3 seconds. If that was an airbrush, this would have been a 10-minute process, including the cleaning out of the airbrush after I was done with it. The downside though is overspray and waste. And when I say overspray, look at the bottom of this. You see that definitive tape line there? That's all overspray. If I hadn't masked this all off, this would have speckles of silver on it. As you saw, I had a little bit of bleed through under the tape. That's easily fixed. Whatever color you're using, just spray it onto something and then just touch it up with a brush. Once that dries, it'll blend very well, and you won't even know. Splat. So every decal sheet will have the decal numbered. Some of them will even have writing on them. These words and numbers will lift off underwater, and 9 times out of 10, they're going to get on the actual decal you want to use, so make sure you cut those out. The last thing you want is a random number or letter in the middle of your beautiful decal. And tragedy struck. When I was taking the camera off, I somehow hit the record button, so when I picked it back up to put it on and start recording, I stopped recording, and I didn't realize it till a little bit later. So you get to stare at my lovely bench instead of watching me put on a few decals. By the time I realized what was going on, it was too late and I already had the decal on. But you get to see me do the rest of the decals, so just use your imagination for what you missed. I don't know how that just flew off like that. I decided my house may be haunted and the ghost built model airplanes, so he's trying to sabotage me for building model cars. It's the only explanation I could think of. To help me align the bolt holes with the holes molded into the intake, I just used a very wet fingertip and pressed the decal down. That let me know where the indentions were and helped me line up that decal. So at this point I got everything where it needs to be. I'm just going to slather some microsol on it and just let it sit and dry overnight. And I did that because there are additional decals that go over these decals. And in the past, I haven't had good luck trying to get a wet decal to go over a wet decal. So I just let this dry first. I ended up installing these off camera in a fit of rage. And normally with carbon fiber decals I'd shoot some clear over it, but looking at the actual car, it was kinda rough. Definitely function over form. So I just left it like this. Now the puddles down there will evaporate, so don't worry if you got puddles whenever you use this stuff. Now for the sake of not having this video be an hour long, I cut out most of me wiring this up. And I chose yellow just because the car's yellow. I'm not a big fan of Excel wires, just yellow car, yellow wires. But first I just drilled holes. Actually, wait, first I sanded them all flat, then I drilled the holes in it. And I know you guys have seen me do that before, so I know you're not missing much by having me edit it out. I still don't do that well at hand painting through the viewfinder, so try not to make too much fun of me here. Yes, Gravy, I know. That's the noise a cat makes. You're ruining my video. Another bit of time saving I did was just painting the radiator hoses blue off camera. This actually locates on those two tabs and just fell into place. Since there isn't actually an engine in this kit per se, I just tuck the wires up out of the way for now, and later I'll route them back to where the spark plugs are supposed to be. Now this roll cage bit here, it's supposed to go in before the intake plenum. It still fits, it just takes a little bit of finagling. Some of you may also notice that the net part of the window I sprayed with that hardware store flat black. I got real tired of trying to make that stay on its own, so I put extra glue in it just because I was mad at it. These headers, they are the easiest headers I've ever had to install. There is a slot down in there that locates these, then they just slide in and just fit perfectly. If I didn't typically edit out all the sound in my videos to make the voiceover better, you would hear a snap right now letting you know that that's in place. And all that down in there was just painted with different shades of silver just to kind of break it up. Now once it's all together and the rear window is in place, you can't even see down in there all that well. So you could probably get away with not even painting it and just leaving it all black. I didn't realize it at the time, but that tab I cut off was actually supposed to be there. So I had just a little bit of fitment issues on this, nothing a little bit of glue couldn't fix though. This car has carbon ceramic brakes, and the good people at Zero Paint makes a carbon ceramic paint. If you look at it real closely, it's kind of a dark gray with little metallic flakes in it. If you don't want to spend $14, get you some of this. Let me zoom in. There you go, graphite metallic. This stuff simulates it very well. Let me show you. We just got another one. Ed Mark Navarra, thank you for the subscribe. Welcome to the family, my friend. If by chance you guys subscribe while I'm doing a voiceover, I'm gonna give you a shout out. So other than painting the calipers in a raw steel color, this is what that looks like straight out of the air gun. You could shoot a flat over just to knock all that sheen off, but in the race car, these kind of have a glaze over them, so this is pretty accurate from everything I've seen in the reference photos. Being that these tires are nylon and not rubber, they're very shiny and very toy-like. Luckily, they can be cleaned up very easily. All you need is something that will fit down inside the tire and hold it firmly without distorting it. In this case, the hex part of a 5/8 spark plug socket did the trick for me. Really, the only obstacle you're going to have is whatever you use to mount the tire, you got to find a way to chuck it up into a drill. For this part, you're going to want to do this over a trash can. And you'll notice it knocks down the high spots first, then it feathers in and starts smoothing it all out. And ideally, you'll want to use something that's wider than the tire, so you don't have to kind of shimmy around like I did here. Once you got that roughed in, just use you some 600 grit sandpaper and take it from there. And I sped this up here because I was feeling very confident after doing the others, and this thing got really hot, so just be careful, guys. And there is one deep groove I couldn't really get out without taking too much material off. Just whenever I mount these, I'm going to make sure that area is facing up into the fender well and out of sight. Now this also works for treaded tires to knock off that center mold seam and to knock down the tread to make it look a bit more used and realistic. In other videos I've showed the process of stripping chrome. There's also tons of them on YouTube, so I didn't show that here. What I did after that was I painted the wheels in a magnesium color, then I installed the tires. And the final step you'll want to do here is install the decals last, because these are a tight fit over the wheels, and whenever you're forcing them on, there's a good chance you're going to hurt that decal. If you built the C6 street car, you'll notice that this has a lip on it that lets this entire assembly set higher up into the body. I'm assuming that's to offset the higher profile tire that they used on the race version. Now this all mounts with 3 very small locating pins, and it does not mount very securely. Now the mounting pins ended up being a bit undersized compared to the holes on the interior tub, so it's very wobbly, especially up front. You guys can't really see that. Hold on. There we go. That's better. In all the kits I built that had metal axles, I never ran into this issue before. It was way undersized for the axle they sent us. I didn't measure it, but judging from my drill bits I used to step this up, it was about a 1/16 of an inch too small. I'd like to say it's just a one-off casting flaw on this one wheel, but all 4 wheels were just like that. We are just a hair under 23 minutes on this video, so if you made it this far, thank you. Normally I'd break this up, engine, interior, chassis, and have separate videos, but the way this is set up, there's really no way to do that. So thank you if you watched the entire